So first, I want to congratulate you for being selected here at South by Southwest, and I also want to congratulate you because Samuel Golden picked up the film. So can you tell us how you feel right now?
Brother, I am high on the spirit. Like, how awesome! No, we're really chuffed to be a part of this year's South by Southwest. We're bummed that we can't get there, but we understand where the world is at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But we were very, very happy to be a part of that festival and that we were launching with South by Southwest. And then, of course, what the icing on the cake was Sam Goldwyn coming in and asking us to, be a part of their team and to get the drover's wife, the legend of Molly Johnson, out there to North America. Mm-hmm. So no, we're on top of the world. We're very blessed, feeling very blessed.
Excellent. What actually made you decide to actually go with a film version of The Drover's Wife?
Look, when I was writing the play back in 2016, and this story's been with me for 45 years. I was a frustrated director in a writer's workshop, and I said, maybe it's time for me to write something. Yeah. So I went home, looked at my bookshelf. The original book has the first publication has a red back cover, and it was just poking out a little bit in the shelf. And I said, maybe it's time, because I always said I'd do something with that story. My mother had read it to me from the age of 5 years old. I was a terrible sleeper, and I'd always be nudging her and go, can you tell me the story about the little boy and his mum? And I'd get up and stop her from telling the story and act out the last line of Ma, I won't never go a droving. And when I sat down to write, I read the first act for the play in 5 days, 2 days for the second act, gave it to my partner, who's the producer of the film in our production company. Said, can you just read this? I said, I think it's probably going to be crap because I wrote it so quickly, but are we onto something, or am I just having a moment? And he read it and came back and went, you're having more than a moment. He says, there's something in this. And then he said, I can see the film. And I went, okay, let me get the play up and then we'll come back to the screenplay. But the way I was so energized and influenced by the audiences that saw the play, and a lot of the women would stay back in the foyer and be toasting. They'd be drinking champagne and toasting the women of 1893. They'd be toasting each other. They were thinking about their daughters. They were thinking about their mother. They were thinking about their grandmothers. So there was always this communal feeling at the end of the production. There'd be gentlemen there with their red wine sitting in the corner on their own. I'd go over and ask if they were all right. And they said, look, I just want to have a moment because I'm thinking about my daughter's future.
Right.
And then I'd invite them all over and we'd sit and I'd talk, I'd workshop the screenplay, because I said, if there was a film, would you come and see it? And they went, yes. And I said, because on the play, I tease them. I like to tease my audience. I want them leaving the theatre going, I want more, or there's more story there. What is it? As long as there's a question and it triggers debate or conversation. So in the play, where, as you know, Molly goes to get her children in the film, in the play, she's about to do that. She has the incident with the stockman. Her son arrives home and she tells him, when you're old enough, I'm going to introduce you to Robert Parson and John McFarlane. And on the stage, the snow starts to fall. We take this deep breath. We're all packed up, ready to go. We step out and to darkness. And the audience every night went, no, it's not finished. No, it can't be. There's got to be another act, So I knew I had them, and I'm in the dark going, yes, because that's what you want. You want them going, oh, who did that? Is she going to get there? So when I spoke about the film, I knew that there was going to be a third and fourth act, and we had to show that. And what I did different from the play to the film was I introduced Louisa Klintoff and Nate. So they're not in the play, because I said, how can I get my audience to come into Molly's world and the fresh eyes, and to go on that journey from their perspective as to who she is, the lifestyle of women in those areas, and what is revealed to her. So it was exciting to just have all of these stories and I'm so glad it did, just cascade out of me. Like, I wrote that screenplay pretty quickly. We got commissioned off the first draft.
Nice.
Yeah. So, you know, and our co-producer said, gosh, that's kind of unheard of. So, but it was because of the foundation and the research that I did with the play, had the opportunity to bring them to the play, and they saw the audience's reactions. So it all just went hand in hand, and you know, here we are.
Nice. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So the transition part, you spoke a little bit about just previously, but what was the most difficult or challenging part with that transition, you think?
Look, when I was writing, I was trying to sort of block myself from things. Like, I didn't want to look at the issue of domestic violence because I do a lot of that in my work, and I went, no, this one I'm not going to. And then I just didn't like the ending. And my poor partner, he said, can we go for dinner? Like, you've been locked in the writer's room. And I went, and I was, you know, feeling sad and sorry for myself. He said, what's wrong? And I told him, I said, with the screenplay, it's not feeling like me, you know. And he says, well, what are you blocking? And I sort of told him, and he said, but that's in the journey that you've walked on, that you walked with, that's been laid before you. So don't block the domestic violence thing, because your voice might be the voice that we need to shed light on this through my past experiences. And then he said, and then I told him about the Indigenous element to it. And he goes, as us as Aboriginal people, if we can't write our truths from our heart, from our lian, from our soul, then who's going to? As soon as he said those words, I went, I got to go home and write. And he went, no. Can we please have entree at least, you know? And we did, and then I left. Then we left. And it just, once again, opened the floodgates. And I said, I'm not holding anything back. And that's when I went and dug deeper into because Yarika is based on my great-grandfather. Other than what happens to him, Yarika is my great-grandfather's story. And I opened that up. And then I said, and if I want to play Molly Johnson and true to who I am as a fair-skinned Indigenous woman, you know, there's got to be an element of Aboriginal essence in her, you know, and then it just came. Things just came. Taking Henry Lawson's original story of Black Mary when he talks about her, and I said, you know, what if that makes Molly's mother? You know, so it was all these elements that were sort of coming to me, and me being open and honest. I hope I just didn't give anything away there when as I just said that for a spoiler alert. But it was those elements. When I let my Blackness, when I let my Indigenous be, it just shone, and not hiding away from my truth or my authentic voice.
Yeah, why are you gonna hide?
We got to.
That's right.
That's right.
Why are you gonna hide anyway?
No, and I don't know why I felt that, because I'm not the person that hides and allows that. But I don't know. I just was trying to be something I wasn't, I guess, when I first sat down.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, and now I look back on it and said, you know, how silly to be thinking like that. And I'm really happy at where we've landed.
And it's funny, I don't know if this is a little bit of a segue to for this question, but I've been watching a lot of films here at South by Southwest where the whole idea of the treatment of women today and in the past, and it's inappropriate, and especially when it comes to history. And I just want to know this commonality of what's coming through these films here at South by Southwest. How do you feel about this sort of rise and awareness of like the treatment of women, you know, and with your film too, as part of that?
Yeah. Well, with all of my work, I focus on First Nation women's issues. That's me. That's my mother. That's my grandmother. I know that life. That's my sisters. That's my aunties.
Mm-hmm.
That's my great grandmothers. So that's a knowing. That's part of my dreaming. That's my journey. And I've always given that voice to my work long before, you know, people started looking for balance and equality in our workplaces, in our industry, allowing women to have their voice. So I was always pushing the front runner for that. And it's powerful now, you know, and I think it is the start. And I said, I think we have made headways around the world, that we are providing a platform, giving the voice to the women to tell their stories, giving them that support. And I think we're on the right path to making change, to bringing about equality, to bringing balance into this industry. And I am proud to be one of the many women that are launching at South by Southwest. And I thank South by Southwest for being conscious of that and making those choices, that we have many, many voices of women in this festival. So I applaud them for being conscious and upfront and making and being a part of that change that is coming and will continue to come, and we'll just keep rising.
Yes, absolutely. The scouting the location for the house of Molly Johnson, tell us that story and how you finally made that decision of this is going to be it. So I guess that's going to be a big decision when it comes to the film.
Yeah, no, we were back and forth with that location for over 6 years. And I had been up there previously in 2006, where I shot a film called Jindabyne, up in Jindabyne. And that's where I made a promise to the ancestors that I'm going to come back, I'm going to do something on this country. And I yelled it out across the ranges. And I said, it's going to be The Drover's Wife. I think I'm going to be in it. And we're making a film. So jump to, you know, of course, the play. And then we do in the 6 years. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to be able to sit on that country and know it. I knew I wanted to do it there, but I had to feel it. I dreamt about it. That tree that you see at the end, I dreamt that tree and I found it on that property.
Oh, wow.
I call her the warrior woman, you know, how her arms are up. So it was the last recce, and we were actually in that area to look at the river, because there was a whole nother scene, but we had to take it out for budget reasons. That started the film with this flood coming, and Danny gets in trouble. So we were down in this gorge, and we're sitting down there, and we're looking up, and we're going, there's no way that anyone's going to get cameras and stuff down here. It's beautiful. So the way if we would have left the way we came into the gorge, I would have missed Molly's Plateau. But the lady said, if you feel up to it, we can just go straight up here and the cars are there. Because we kind of walked along the riverbank to get to this spot, climbing over many various rocks and trees and everything else. And we thought that going straight up the hill was probably the easier option. So we went straight up, and I saw that other tree that I don't want to give anything away. And I started taking photos of it. And there was myself, Sam Hobbs, the designer, my first, Murray Fredericks, the time lapse, and the location officer. And we all sort of just branched off, and it was really a quiet moment. And I'm looking at these trees, and I love the snow gum. And I'm looking at this particular breed of this tree. And then all of a sudden, I turned around, and you see that great view. And then I turned around and went, wow, this feels really nurturing place.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just went, this is it. and all the boys went, we agree, you know, because they were off having their moments at different angles. And then I went, this just feels so right. And then we all just went crazy, and we just called it, this is Molly's Plateau. And then we, of course, the people that own the property were with us, and they said, oh, well, we're happy that you found this, because that little area was not on the list to see. And it was just purely because we didn't want to walk back along the riverbank and go through that obstacle. We thought it'd be easier just to go up and over this quite steep bank. but we got there. And then I sat down in the middle of it and I said, look at this, we can nearly get 360-degree range. There was just a little section where the houses were. And I went, this is a gift. And I said, look at that down that valley, that vista. And then we found other locations around there. And we said, this just works. So yeah. Nice.
The children that you had to cast for the film, I mean, it must have been so exciting for them to actually, I'm in a film. But their families, are they aware of your journey and your purpose of making the film, and do their families resonate, and what were the children's like reactions of being in the film?
Yeah, those children are just a gift. Again, I call them my little gifts. They're all of Aboriginal descent, so they all have Aboriginal blood, and nice. And the reason I chose all those different shades of colors is because that's what we are today, you know. But it doesn't make us any less Indigenous, because we're all so strong and so want to rebuild, you know, and hold on to our culture. So the casting agent sent out a social media call for Indigenous kids. It's the biggest casting response that she's ever got in her history, and she's our top woman. Over 2,000 children responded.
Wow.
Around Australia. And her office was like a call center. The phones were going off the hook. And she rang me and says, I don't know what's going on, but oh my goodness. So then we asked for those who had a little bit of experience, and Malachi, the young boy who plays Danny, he was on my. I always look at actors and their physical capacity, because I think that that's a big plus when you have coordination. So I'm always looking at, and he was a dancer. He danced for the tribal warriors.
Okay.
And so I said, I'm going to put him in the mix, because I thought he might have been the oldest boy at the end of the play, and at the end of the screenplay, at the end of the movie. And then I found these other 5 boys that had a bit of experience. So I held a workshop, and I said, I'm going to bring them all together. And I got another brother who did the choreography, Albert David, a phenomenal Torres Strait Island man, who did the dancing, choreographing that, worked with the boys on movement, spear throwing, earthing everybody. You know, we've been walking around in shoes too long and in the city. And I said, I want to bring that kid with the red hair. You know, I forgot his name. I said, because he was a dancer. Might put the so-called actors under a bit of pressure, you know. He was 10 minutes late. We'd already started because we had a tight schedule. He walks in, and I just look at him and said, oh my God, you're actually better in person, your look, you know. He apologized. They had a flat tire. And for me, I go, there's something going on here. And then I just looked at him, poor little guy, and I said, look, we've started. We're playing a game. Just jump in, mate. And he sort of gave me this look. I won't say what I think he was saying in his head. It was like, go away, lady. And I went, just jump in. You'll be fine. So I was playing this game that I play with them, and I turn away and I give them a motion, and I count to 10, and I turn around, and they've got to be doing like a postcard, or showing me this motion like a frozen statue. Within 30 seconds of that kid joining in, he started to organize the room. Wow. He started to organize them. And I went, and I said to my partner who was watching, Bain, I said, is that kid that just walked in? And he went, yeah, it is. And I said, all right. And then he just took control of the room. And then he got up and danced, and he deliberately started late so that he could finish the dance and everyone was watching him. And I said, I like this kid's style. and then he was supposed to leave at lunchtime, because then all the actors were going to do the afternoon with their audition piece. And I was saying to his mum, please don't, I need him to stay. I think he's great. I want him to look over the scene, you know, the scene and learn it.
Right.
So she had to go and get the tire fixed. I said, of course. And they were having an argument. And I said, I want you to stay. Whatever I got to do, I will do. And all he didn't want to catch the bus home. And I said, mate, I will drive you to the moon if you stay, please. So he stayed.
Amazing.
And I gave him the scene. He went away. He had about an hour. He come back, and he was feeling a bit insecure. And then we started to do it. And I said to him, and he was like me, he's not a very good cold reader. He's not a reader. I was not a reader. So within him saying 2 lines, I stopped him. I said, just stop, bro. I said, get rid of that piece of paper and I want you to mimic me. And then I started to do the scene and then he just mimicked. And I said, you make it yours. And and I went, and he turned around and he said, Auntie, if you give me 24 hours to get this down, I'll come back and smash this. And I said, little man, I said, you're smashing this already. I said, I'm going to give you a week and then you're going to come back and then you're going to do it. And he said, all right. He said, I can do it sooner. I said, no, a week. So he comes back to the audition. And the reason I'm elongating this because it's a good yarn. He comes to the audition and he's in this prestigious school uniform. And I went, what, with a tie and his hair? And I went, tell me, you dance for Tribal Warrior and you go to this school? He said, yeah, I'm on a scholarship for my football. And I said, coordination, that's good. And then he looked at me and he had this, I could tell he wanted to tell me something, but I was being the director and talking too much and carrying on. And I said, do you want to tell me something? He said, yeah, you know my dad. And I went, oh, I don't think so. And then his last name triggered for me, Roberts. And I went, oh my goodness, are you Malcolm Roberts' son? And he said, yes, I am. Malcolm Roberts was a little boy when he was 10 years old. I found him in Glebe on a skateboard. And I went to see his parents and used him for my in a workshop for my very first short film.
Oh, wow.
and I went, I'm so glad I didn't know this until now because I would have felt biased towards
Yeah, absolutely.
I said, you earned this role on your own. I said, now get up there and see if you're better than your father was. And he just blew us out of the water. But how's that? That's like
crazy.
His dad was a 10-year-old. He was 12. So, I just went, that's fate putting people into my hands. Mm-hmm. And Malachi, you've seen it. He'd done a fabulous job. No training in acting, just dance background and played a lot of footy. And, he's got he's an old soul and got an old head on his shoulders. And he was great. He didn't realize that you had to do a few takes. He goes, how come we're doing it again? I said, because I wasn't good enough. And then in the end I said, because you wasn't good enough, let's go again. Do I have to do it again? I said, yes, you do. You didn't quite get that right. So, but they came to play, I had to be the director. I had to draw the line. I had a great guy that worked with Peter Cook that was working with the young people with their lines. But all of those kids were confident. I had no trouble with them at all. The only thing that sort of slowed us down or pulled back was, the restrictions when you do have children on set. And they would cry. They didn't want to go home. And I went, you have to because your 4 hours are up. And like legally, you've got to get out of here so I can bring you back tomorrow. Why do we have to leave all the time? Bless them. So they're, going back, and their mothers were aware of the hardness in the script. We gave their mums the script to read. They said, and there's rules and regulations when you're working with children of how you can talk about things to them, what they see, what they know. So, and they were happy. They were always on set. I always communicated with them. When the little girl got insecure, if there was a photo of all of us, like in the wagon, for example, the mum was at the end of the wagon beside me, hanging onto her foot. I said, Mum's there. I said, can you feel her? So I never shunned them away, but I told them, let me be boss on set. And you as a mum work for me, so therefore the kid has to work for you and work for me, So we worked up a little bit of communication, and when things were good, I'd say, go get a coffee, it's all good, Yeah. But if the child needed their mother their mum, I was really open to having their mums there and making them feel safe. So I got what I needed. So no, they were awesome. And but what do they say? Never work with kids and animals, and I had kids and horses. A donkey and a bull. But I just like a challenge. But the animals performed great, and those kids were a blessing.
Amazing. I wanted to know if your thoughts have actually changed towards Molly Johnson after doing a film. Or do you think of her as the same person, same character, or after the...
No, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
no,
go
I you know, as an actor, you're creating this character, and because I've done the play, she's embedded in me, and as a writer, there's a little bit of me in her. You know, as I said, my mum, my nan, but now I just got so much respect for her. Like I've got even more. Like she's a hero, and it's because of what other people view her as. You know what I mean? Like I'm too close to her to really see what she's done. Like when we were filming, people were writing and comparing Molly Johnson from 1893 to the women of today that was dealing with those bushfires while their husbands were in the back paddock trying to put out the flames that were coming for the house.
Right.
You had these women that were living on isolated properties within Australia, within that country that I'm filming.
Yeah.
You know, making decisions to whether to you pack the ute up or the Toyota and get out, you know, to save your life, you know, while you're worrying about where your husband is, or do you stay and fight? And that was amazing that was being analysed and compared to what Molly went through and the decisions and living in isolation. Like some of these properties in Australia are miles and miles away from anything. And these women hold down the fort, you know, they hold down the everyday. So through the eyes and the stories and what other people have said, Jessica DeGow that plays Louisa Clintoff in the film, we did a Q&A the other day, and she said, you know, we've got our Marvel heroes that are coming out and they're imported to us, but we've got Molly Johnson, you know. And I went, wow, you know. And she goes, Aussies, we do love seeing ourselves up there. And, you know, someone else said, you know, Ned Kelly's is always doing the circuit, but wait till they meet Molly Johnson, you know. And that's just awesome. Like I didn't know where I was going with the play. I didn't know what was going to happen with the film. I didn't know what was going to happen with the novel. But I'm just so blessed that she is who she is, and that everyone is latching onto her and sharing in her journey and being triggered to go back and ask questions about their family's life. You know, one of the standby costume, we gave her the novel and she gave it to her mother-in-law, which she didn't have the best relationship with, or it was nasty or anything. They just didn't have much in common. And she gave her the book, and she said the first time we went around for dinner in years, this woman had opened up about her mother's journey, and they shared so much. And that to me is my job is done. If other women are opening up and understanding each other, if the universe, you know, the wider audience around the world is getting the undercurrent of the political agendas that are in there. And even if they don't, if they see it as a commercial film where they've spent their money wisely and they've enjoyed it as just a film, then that's all a gift, you know.
I want to congratulate you once again for being part of South by Southwest, and of course, I want to congratulate you for, you know, Samuel Goldwyn picking up the film. All the best tomorrow for the premiere at South by Southwest. Yep. And it was such a pleasure speaking with you and talking with you, and I hope to do it again with you sometime in the near future.
Likewise, Fernando. Thank you, brother. Take care.
Take care. Thank you very much.